Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Gaming Podcast. Once again, I'm Bradley. And joining me this week, he asked me to define what blind panic actually is in visual form. What I don't think he meant was for me to spill a fresh cup of coffee all over my computer area, going into a mass panic because I was worried it had gone into the computer, over the table, into the plug sockets below and everywhere while drastically trying to clean it up. Is that what you wanted me to do, Stu, or was you after something more of a verbal definition?
Yeah, so I think verbal probably, but computer area, is that just like a euphemism for, something a bit personal?
I wish it was, but no, I spilled a literal cup of coffee over a literal computer table with a computer on it. And now I know why you must have feet or risers on a computer, because thankfully it went under the computer and not into it.
You have to cover it with some sort of rain mat or an umbrella or something, really, because, now that we're at home more often, working from home and stuff and all of that, they're just going to be covered in all sorts of fluids, and not just those kinds of fluids.
Not the Randy Marsh fluids.
Oh, yeah, no, not them.
Talking of fluids everywhere, video games have fluids in them sometimes, possibly, maybe. These are getting really tenuous.
That's terrible.
I know. But if anyone ever wanted proof that we don't practice these, they're not scripted. It's the fact that we can't even get a decent segue out of it.
Sometimes barely get a sentence out.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's just words, in it. So, video games. What have you been playing, Stu? Yeah. What have you been playing?
I've been playing with something. Oh no, let's not start off on that foot. We've already done the Randy Marsh thing. So I've been playing a game that does have an unusual name. I've been playing Crysis 3, which is only unusual in that it has a Y instead of an I. In fact, Crysis has two I's and it's one Y and one I. See, this is just making things needlessly complicated now. Anyway, so Crysis 3 came out like 8 years ago. And
no.
Crytek, yeah, crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
I know. It's bananas. There's people out there playing games who were like toddlers when it came out, and that just doesn't make any sense to me. Because to them it'd be an old game, which is bananas. And despite
the same as my son tells me that Snatch is an old time film.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, he's wrong, but But that's what when we were growing up, something that was made in the early 70s or late 60s, we'd think of as old films. And we were right. So
years.
He's right. Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Crysis 3 is an ancient retro game now. Yeah.
Yeah, so retro game Crysis 3 is I really, really like it, and it was in a very funny space when it came out. It got slated a bit for not being long enough, which I think is bananas. It got slated for being more about ideas than about level design, which again I was like, don't we want new ideas?
Mm-hmm.
And it was slated for not performing great because it was really pushing stuff, but. You see,
that's what you want from a Crysis.
Well, yeah, I want stuff pushing the boundaries, and obviously your PC nowadays is going to have no problem with it, even though the game looks absolutely fantastic still. It looks really, really good. It is indistinguishable from a modern game, really.
Yeah.
There's some lighting effects that nowadays they'd probably try and do real time and volumetric, but they were so far ahead of the game. And I think what happened, I please do tell me if I'm wrong if you know, but I think because Crytek got swallowed up by EA, that just totally put them on the back foot, and they've done very, very little with that existing engine since then. And they finally got their IP back off them, and they've rushed out the Crysis 1 remaster, which wasn't great, and then they reevaluated and they've brought it in-house to do Crysis 2 and 3 remasters. And there's a leak that there's a Crysis 4 on the horizon, so that made me really, really happy, because Crysis 3 is like basically an FPS, but with a Predator mode as well, where you can just use a a bow and arrow and shoot fools. And I think I've mentioned in the past, it's got that feeling a little bit of Tomb Raider, the reboot. I think they kind of nicked the idea of that kind of insta-kill stealth stuff with a bow and arrow from Crysis 3. And it's really great. It's really well designed. The levels can be a little bit boring with corridors just leading to them. But there are some more open areas in combat with some good AI. And it does enough to make it really stand out. And it's not as good as the first game. The second game I liked, even though it wasn't massively popular in retrospect. But I really like the third one, more as a sort of technical exercise than anything else. And it was really good to revisit ahead of the remaster, which for me will be pointless. But I'm hoping people invest in that. And then maybe a Crysis 4. So, yeah, a good one to go back to.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of... I think we're seeing re-releases, remasters at the moment, which are being put out to test the waters. The Quake remaster, Crysis remasters. I think we've had Bioshock remasters, Metro remasters. I think we're seeing some. I think there's a Metal Slug is getting redone for the Switch as we speak, or it's just been released. Not the tactical based one, but the original bang bang shooty one.
Yeah.
So we're getting all these sort of like remasters happen. I think to test the waters. Alan Wake's another one as well. I think Remedy, is it Remedy? It is Remedy, isn't it? Have got the IP back and remastering that. So yeah, I think that's what we're seeing with Crysis. Crysis 4. I don't know if I want to see a fourth in the series. I would be happy with a reboot or another story within the Crysis universe. But as you said, with Crysis 3, it is indistinguishable from modern shooters and stuff like that, unless you're really, really looking for it. You have got to be really sort of like going in detail and going, see, look, that texture's not quite as good as the textures in this latest game. Because at a glance and just playing it, it still looks wonderful. I haven't played it recently, but I've seen it in motion recently, and... yeah, I like Crysis 3. I did. I think even though 1 is better, I think I had more fun with 3.
Yeah. I can totally see that. Yeah, because it is it was more in line with the FPSs of its day, whereas obviously Crysis was really far ahead of them. But it adds a lot of really accessible stuff. I don't mean, like accessibility options. I mean, it adds a load of gaming accessibility to the suit and things like that. Makes it much more likely to use the abilities. And if you think that, like, not long after that, I think it was not long after, or was it before even, but it was around the era of Bioshock Infinite, which for me, and we'll come back to it because it's a very good important touch point on something else I've been playing, but for me, Bioshock Infinite completely failed as a game in terms of fun.
Yeah.
I thought its story was good. I thought it looked beautiful. I thought the physics were all right. But in terms of moment-to-moment combat, I just didn't enjoy it. And, Crysis 3 does not have that. There's so many options. There's all the suit abilities, how they blend with one another. There's sprint and slide. There's cover options and lean. There's, iron sight zooms. There's just like everything packed in there, but without it being overwhelming, and also working really well with the pad. And even today, there's stuff that doesn't come even sort of close to how well it handles. So yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think the only game since that I've had as much fun with is probably Titanfall 2. Yeah. And with Crysis 3 especially, if that was a standalone game and they had called it, army guy kills a predator and nicks his powers, that would have been a fun game. It could have been that. And it's a game that I always felt that it wasn't a bad Crysis game. You sometimes talk about games like, it's a bad Splinter Cell game, but it's a good game, or it's a bad Hitman game, but it's a good game. I think with Crysis 3, it's a good Crysis game, but an even better standalone game.
I think it's held its own, and I think that people are going to rediscover it in a really pleasant way when they invest in the remaster. So I hope that the remaster, comes out at a fairly low price.
Yeah.
bundled all three together at 20 quid would be ideal, I think. But we'll have to see.
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk about remaster pricing at some point, because I just to touch on it, you can't charge full price for a remaster of a game someone's possibly owned already 4 or 5 times over.
Yeah.
So, but I understand they've got to make their money. But I think if you find the right price point, you'll get the true idea of whether people want a new game in that particular IP.
Yeah.
Whereas I think too low, people will just get it because it's really cheap. Too high, people will ignore it because it's just too expensive to play again at that price when they can already play something like Crysis 3, a great version of it, a really, or even just a good version of it on fairly low end spec computers without spending out any additional. So yeah, we'll see what will come from that.
Yes, no, that would be really good. And also, while we're on the subject, Guerrilla, you need to do a remaster of Killzones and put them out, because that needs another entry in the series. So yeah,
yes, maybe put it on the PC with your PC releases.
Yeah.
Sony, you know you're looking at Microsoft going, yeah, we've really got to start putting more on PC.
Yep.
So do that, Sony. But it's good. Actually, see, it's good that you've been playing big titles, because I won't throw out a place when I speak about my next one.
Ooh, go on.
It's massive. Honestly, this game is absolutely massive. It's called Toem. You've probably never heard of it.
Called what? Sorry.
Because it's a Toem. It's an indie game.
Right.
I'm going full hipster. Toem. Going full hipster.
Cool.
It's an indie game. You've probably never heard of it. No, what you've got is Toem is a minimalistic photography game. Is probably the easiest way to put it, and it's everything I want in an indie title. Absolutely everything. It's experimental in all the right ways. It's a game that lasts maybe 4 to 5 hours. It's quirky. It doesn't ever outstay its welcome. It's got the right amount of game mechanics in it, and it understands how to tell a story. So essentially, I don't want to say too much about the story, because again, it's one you've got to experience. I hate telling the stories of what's in a game in terms of story modes, but you kind of take on this role if you're helping people around this, like these different little towns and villages or cityscapes or whatever. And they're like black and white drawn type things, and all very minimalistic. And you've got to help these people by using your camera. And they go, thanks. And you talk to them, you learn a bit about them, you learn a bit about where they are, and then you move on to another location, rinse and repeat. But the stories are lovely, really lovely. So there's like one where there's these ghosts who are having trouble with things. You've got to help them. You take photos to help them, maybe prove they exist and things like that. You get this story, and the story's maybe about 3 hours in total, the story going through all the things, but you can go back to the levels, and just there's loads of little mini challenges in there as well. So sort of it's like, take a photo of this, or can you see these sort of things? So you take all these little photos. You start off with these basic camera commands like zoom in and etc. You get minor little upgrades that help you take different photos, and it's just so well put together. But what it doesn't do, and now one of my favourite photography games is Umurangi Generations, which I think is a fantastic photography game.
Yeah.
But the one critique I had of it was it's a bit finicky in places. So it's like, take this type of shot. So you take the shot and it doesn't score you well because you haven't quite got it almost pixel perfect in a way.
Yeah.
And this doesn't do that. It doesn't score your shots. You just go, take your shot. Are you doing it? And then you take your shot, but it also encourages you to have fun with the camera. Go around, take selfies of yourself, and just enjoy having a camera in this minimalistic space. I think I cracked through this. I had a good day of vision a week or so ago. I was under embargo before I could talk about this. Well, I didn't talk about this last week. I had a really good day, and I thought I'll give this a go. And 4 or 5 hours later, I went, I've done absolutely everything.
Nice.
And I don't want more. I don't want any more. But I don't feel I've been shortchanged.
Yeah.
It was just perfect. Absolutely perfect in its length and what it delivers. and just what an experience. I played it on the Switch and get it on the PC. I don't know if it's on the other consoles, but honestly, if you've got a day, not even a day, if you've got a few hours spare, you will play this. You'll complete this in a day. If length is your thing, then you're not going to get that. But if you're just after a really good contained experience that does exactly what it needs to do, Toem is, it's sublime. Absolutely brilliant.
Right. Yeah. So first off, perfect length and really delivered for me. Title of your sex tape. And secondly,
Yeah.
I checking my notes. It looks like it's very because it's high contrast because it's black and white. Was that white? Did that cause a lot of problems? And does it need more of an accessibility mode, do you think?
So, no, I mean, again, I'm not going to lie. I played this on a good day, but I didn't find it overbearing. Even some games I've tried to play on a good day, it's overbearing. I've had to take a break, look away, try and refocus, struggle with bits, ask for help and stuff like that. I didn't get that with this. I think the high contrast works because where there is a lot of white, it actually breaks it up really well with the blacks that go with it.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the need to check the accessibility settings. So I don't know what it's actually got, which is pretty, I suppose, this is why I don't do reviews as such, 'cause it's pretty poor on my part not to suppose to check that, but I didn't feel it needed it. It didn't hinder my experience of it. It just worked. Again, could one argue, could you have a button to invert the colours if you've got a really bright area or something? Maybe that could be something, but on the whole, yeah, it was perfectly playable. It was really enjoyable, and as I say, even in the really bright areas, it was enough that I could still see what I was doing and play the game pleasantly.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it sounds really good, and it certainly looks the part. And there's a thread, a sort of, a kind of, I don't know what you'd call it really, but a zeitgeisty thing of pleasant games, that are nice, that have you doing, they're kind of like, I guess, Animal Crossing, but with a far less focus on work and more action, more focus on action, and action only being, interaction and kind of, not a gimmick, but, a specific type of thing, like taking photographs. But I was thinking of that and Chicory that I want to buy as well, the Dog's Tail one. I definitely want to get that before the end of the year because I really want it to be good and then stick it on my Games of the Year list. I've got like a bias towards it already. But yeah, no, I think it's a good trend, and I think that kind of duration is perfect, isn't it, for that kind of experience?
Oh yeah, and to say, I've played short games before where I've gone, I want more.
Yeah.
And this isn't one of them. I don't want more, but not in I'm done with it now. I finished it. I looked back and went, everything's done. I am so satisfied. And you said it's like one of those games. It's not going to shock you to hear. I first came across this on the Wholesome Direct. It's one of the Wholesome games that they really promote through. So again, it comes under that category. It's just pure wholesomeness. It's just, lovely game. Cool.
Nice one.
So next for you.
Well, not a game as such, but I want to talk about it. I've been doing a part of my project with old systems because I'm getting them in, playing the games on them I want that require the actual hardware and their peripherals, and then hopefully selling them on. And I've got one that I'm not selling on because it's my original Dreamcast. Ooh. And I did a few things with this week, ordered some bits for it, and also did some stuff. So I did some retro brighting on the bottom half because I
was going to say, what colour is it at the moment?
Well, at the moment it's yellow because I have a yellow case. So I have a translucent yellow top half of the case, which is
it's not looking like a Scouse girl who's hasn't been to the beds for a couple of weeks.
The bottom half was looking pretty rough. And I've fully retrobrited it, and it looks brand new now, which is amazing. And it makes such a difference. Even though it's got like a yellow top half, you think that'd offset it, but no, that kind of horrible pea yellow colour that you get when it's sun faded is gone. So that's great. And I got a new PSU for it, so a new power supply, because the old one's like really inefficient and runs really hot and can burn out and stuff like that. So new one in there, and ordered some other bits for it, and I've got like a HDMI box for it and stuff like that. So yeah, I just had really good fun pulling it apart, tarting it up. Oh, I also did the fix for like there's a fuse that can blow when you like take controllers out and stuff like that. It's really stupid because it can kill your entire console just by one fuse blowing. So I replaced that with a self healing fuse that resets itself after like 10 minutes, and also put a new battery in so it retains the time and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just really, really nice, and it's nice to get it working again. And I got all the bits on the way that I'll talk about in future. But yeah, getting an old console and putting new bits in it, I think is now it's more common in a way now, because you can like put new hard drives in stuff, upgrade them. You can put, the M2 drives in and things like that, and firmware updates come along that improve the experience. And you can still do that with old stuff, but it's more of a mechanical process. And it's just nice to do it so that they're up to date, and that they're not going to explode in a ball of flames any moment.
So with the Dreamcast, for me, that is still the one console that's brought the arcades into your home, because it was the last generation of arcade games look better than console games, I think. Yeah. So your Daytonas, your Sega Rally, stuff like that. Can you put MAME onto a Sega Dreamcast? Because what I'm thinking is, if you could have all your MAME 2D, very 70s, 80s 2D stuff on there, but you still got the top Sega classics. I mean, everyone only really cares about the Sega 3D games in the arcades mainly anyway. So you got your Crazy Taxi with original soundtrack, you've got your Sega Rally, your Daytona, etc. I think if you could have that Dreamcast box with MAME running all the old stuff plus your Sega Dreamcast conversions of arcade games, you've almost got arcade perfection just in a little white and yellow box in your case under your TV.
Yeah. It's not the ideal selection for that. It's not really very highly powered by today's standards, and you could probably get MAME running on it, but yeah, you're probably better off using something else, to be honest, especially as the controllers aren't great and getting hold of them isn't even that easy. So stuff that it's more boring, but you'd be better off like using the case and sticking a Raspberry Pi in it or something if you really wanted to.
Is there enough room in there to put a Raspberry Pi in there as well?
No, not as well. You'd have to gut it.
There.
Yeah.
Tower power it is then.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's
create your own tower power.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, just put a load of spacers in where it screws in, and you'll be able to stack them up. But it's a fantastic console, and it was such a shame that it only lasted such a short time, and it's unbelievably short when you look back at it. It was like it was 99 to, I mean, its glory days in inverted commas were about 2 years. And a year of that was a lot of it taken up with Japanese exclusivity, and then, eventually the PAL release. So it lasted almost no time, but delivered so many good games.
That's it. I can't think of a console that had such a short lifespan yet delivered banger after banger after banger, time after time, and broke the mold. Phantasy Star Online and Quake 3 Arena just alone broke the mold in online home gaming for me on a console.
It really did.
And it wasn't bettered. PlayStation 2 didn't better it. Nintendo didn't better it. And it had to take until the 360, which I would argue is the actual spiritual successor to the Dreamcast, rather than being the actual spiritual successor to the original Xbox, really is what took that and ran with it. And, Jet Set Radio, Shenmue, whatever people say about Shenmue, it was groundbreaking at the time. And what a console it was. What a console.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a ton of games on there that I still play, like genuinely love, that have not really appeared anywhere else. So like Cosmic Smash and Cool Toon and, loads of stuff like that. And there's loads of shooters for people who are into shooters. So yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah. All the light gun games and everything that were part of it as well.
Yeah. And it was just great. So,
And Typing of the Dead is the only console where you can properly play Typing of the Dead on a console because it had a keyboard, official keyboard, and everything.
That's right. Yeah.
It was so ahead of its time. It really was.
I know, and they picked. They packed so many games into that short period of life as well.
So, I mean, that could almost be that. I mean, that's almost should be the Sega sort of motto: ahead of its time, released at the wrong time.
I know,
because everything they did seemed to be ahead of its time in what they done. I remember they was the first to really do digital down, like it wasn't digital downloads, but those satellite games and stuff like that on the Mega Drive and stuff. I know it was only in Japan and stuff, but they done that in a way that hadn't really been done before on console, and it's part and parcel of what we do now via like digital download games. And we've got to do a full-on Sega special. We really have. I know we spoke about this many moons ago, but yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm obsessed with them. Maybe one for the 100th episode. That's pretty. It's 15 episodes away, but it still feels like it's around the corner. So maybe that one.
Is it next year that starts? I'll let you do the maths on
You're
that. We'll reveal next week.
So have you been playing anything else?
Oh, well, yes, I have. That's a silly question. So I've been playing, as will be no surprise, another indie game that people may not have heard of is A Night at the Races, which is an indie game that really doesn't do what it says on the tin. I don't know what I was expecting from A Night at the Races, but based on title alone, I went, yeah, go on, I'll give that a go. And what you've got here, and I really don't know how to describe it. I don't know if it's a point-and-click adventure game with a speed platforming meta game inside, or whether it's a speed running platformer with a adventure game point and click shell.
Okay.
So right, so essentially what you've got here is you take on this role with someone, they're having money issues, so they enter this competition to sort of play this game to try and sort of like win fame, fortune, money, that sort of thing. It's got this story around it. And you click through, and then you kind of get taken into this platformer puzzle, speed running puzzle platformer type thing. So akin to like Super Meat Boy, M Plus, Celeste, that kind of platforming type thing going on. And then you have to run these levels, and you go onto these leaderboards, you get high scores, and the idea is to be the best, and you get money, and you win through and stuff like that. And the story side of it, it was alright, but I didn't really care too much. But it done enough to give you a reason to play these games.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got this whole game within a game thing, and you go, it's alright, but I don't think it'd stand on its own as a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the opposite. You play this game, like this fake game is called No Berry Left Behind. And essentially, the reason I mentioned M Plus, Super Meat Boy, and Celeste as a whole is it's very reminiscent of those games. Very basic looking, super fast, super precise of Meat Boy. I say the basic looking nature of M Plus. It feels like it's got some of the movement of M Plus, but more Meat Boy. But then there's like the dashing abilities and stuff like that of Celeste. And the levels have got that kind of feel of Celeste difficultness that's not just about where platforms are. And I was playing it, and I was just really enjoying the platforming section. And I'll come back to a fault I've got on that in a minute. But overall, what the game does really well, it's got like 200 levels in it, which is enough for a game on its own. It's these 200 levels, and what's really good, you can either attack them all and make sure you beat them all, or you can kind of skip levels where you see fit to progress the story. So well done on that, because it's brutally hard at times. It's got in-game leaderboards, out like real-life leaderboards, and that feels like it should be the game, but it's like this is like some kind of fake in-universe game only. And I still can't get my head around why they had to do the adventure bit, because the adventure bit, whilst it's okay, distracts from the wanting to play the platforming section.
Yeah.
And so I kind of looked at it. I kind of played a lot of it. I haven't finished it yet. So maybe there's going to be, like Pony Island, when you get to the end of Pony Island or Super Hot and it does this whole reveal type thing. You're like, oh, right, okay, I get it now. I'm still not quite sure what the adventure side of it is for. So maybe that'll come down the line when I finish it. But I kind of looked at it when I got to a point and just went, okay, what am I going to say about this? The platform is really good and it apes M+, Super Meat Boy and Celeste, but it's not as good as those. And I'm looking at it going, why is it not as good as those? And I can't find a reason individually why it's worse than M+, why it's worse than Super Meat Boy, why it's worse than Celeste. Because it takes the right elements from each of those games, it becomes its own thing. And honestly, if they had released No Berry Left Behind as a standalone game, I think it would be such an indie darling now that it wouldn't be a game people haven't heard of.
Right.
I think it would be sort of up there with those. Honestly, I can say, oh, Celeste does this better, but I'm trying to think of what does Celeste do better than this? The story? Sure, but it's not a story game. What does Super Meat Boy do better than this? The difficulty? Well, no, because, both are challenging and I want to complete both. What does M Plus do? You have to collect these things to get to a gate, which is why the M Plus comparison's there. Does M Plus do it better? Not really. M Plus as a package doing just that is great, but does it do it better? No. And yeah, it's, the game is called A Night of the Races, but I had to make note that I referred to it as A Night of the Races and not No Berry Left Behind, because that platform is just absolutely sublime, wrapped up in a so far mediocre adventure game that feels like it's not needed.
Right. Yeah, no, that is unusual, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. It makes you think, well, what were they thinking of, Did they think that there wasn't enough content in one and they needed the other? Or, were they two separate projects at one point and they merged? It's kind of, yeah, it's a bit of a strange decision, really.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think that's the case. I honestly think this is their core idea, that they wanted this meta game or this fake universe game that you go to, and it's like I've played other games where they kind of what was it called? That one where you take two cartridges and put it in a special machine, it merges them to create this game. I can't remember what it was called, but you do that. So you've had this.
What, Sonic 3 and Knuckles?
No, not actual cartridges. Like, it was a game based around it.
Oh.
It was like this really retro-looking arcade. You owned a game shop and you had to save it, and you got this mysterious console, and you kind of plugged in there within the game. Not Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I mean, Sonic 3 and Knuckles with other games would be amazing. Like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but you plug in Afterburner. That could have been a thing. Anyway, I'm going off tangent. But it feels like they designed this. We wanted this fake meta game in there that you play, and it's part of the whole universe, and that it fits together well like that. But I do think at some stage it would have been cool, and I don't want to crap on anyone's ideas or visions, because again, I haven't reached the end, so it might have this big blow up moment where it just all makes sense. But if it continues how it is, part of me's going, surely at some point someone could have gone, should we just maybe not do this section and concentrate on this section? But it doesn't feel like they're just tacked together. They feel like they are still part of, like, it was all designed from the ground up to be like that. But in my honest opinion, one side of it went much, much better than I think they ever expected it could be.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, overall then, is it worth people checking out, or is it too...
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, okay.
No. The bulk of it for me is the platform. You spend more time in the platforming sections than you do the adventure sections. So the bulk of it, as I said, I don't know whether it's an adventure game with platforming as part of it, or whether it's a platformer with a point and click adventure as a shell. I still couldn't tell you which one it actually is for me, because it's presented more like it is the adventure game and you do the platforming as part of the adventure game. But the platforming is just so damn good. But yeah, Night of the Races, I wholly recommend giving it a look, even as a curiosity.
Oh, okay. Right. Well,
complete opposite to last week for me so far, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, no, I mean, that kind of, I don't like that kind of platformer. I just find them too difficult, but it does sound like a good one if you can get around the...
See, I I like them when the levels are short and sweet, so you can just go at them. And Celeste checkpointing, for example, is perfect. That's difficult, but you don't ever go, I've got to go back through this whole on section again. Meat Boy, they've got the balance right, and this is what this has done. It's got that balance right, and the fact it's got a skipping section, you could not a skipping, that'd be weird, but you can skip any level you want just to progress the story. So they've thought about all this as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that option. Very much needed for me.
So, any more from you?
Well, yeah, kind of quite a big one. Ooh. Because I've been playing Deathloop.
I know that name. Why? Oh, yes, of course. Yes, sorry. I'm thinking a loop here. I was like, oh, okay. But no, Deathloop, yes. Yeah, yes.
A little bit.
The Microsoft-owned Sony exclusive.
That's the one. Yeah. A little bit bigger than Loop Hero.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, it's a funny one. So, I mean, yeah. Question is, like, why did I buy it? Because that's not normally something I do, because I normally like wait till they're 50p, several years down the line, because I'm just like that. Well, because
or when it's on Game Pass next year.
But the reason was because I have a DualSense that I've talked about that I got for Christmas last year.
Yep.
And I use frequently on Steam because it's just really comfortable and the sticks are really precise. But this game fully supports all of its haptics, and I was like, I being a kind of cutting edge kind of a nerd and liking to mess around with the newest stuff, I was like, yeah, I'm getting this, because I was fairly interested in the game anyway. After seeing early reviews saying that it does something a bit more unusual. So yeah, I thought, I'm going to go for it. So for just to bring people up to speed and describe it without spoilers too much. So you can talk about obviously the title, because the title gives away a lot of what you do. Mm-hmm. So you kill people and you're in a time loop. So there you go. Can't spoil what's already in the title, really. And other than that, it's got a lot of elements that are obviously very similar to Dishonored, as you'd expect, being from Arcane Studios. And also linking into what I was talking about earlier, BioShock. So not only does it have a kind of thing where you're dual wielding, but often the other thing is not a weapon. Like you can dual wield a device to hack stuff, for example. And that's an ancillary kind of thing that you can do. But also it has really, really poor really poor enemy drawings. Like the artwork on the enemies is so bad. It's a stylistic choice because they always go for like simplistic looking protagonists and antagonists in their games, but I just don't think it works in this. I think it looks really ugly and sticks out because the backgrounds are amazing.
Yeah,
the graphics in general are just absolutely stunning. And what they've done that's clever is, because you're on an island and you're going to see the same places frequently, it's packed them full of detail and items and colours and shapes and stuff that was really, really memorable. And it's done in a kind of faux 60s, 1960s style, like We Happy Few, that game that came out that was rubbish.
Yeah.
And No One Lives Forever, and that's really where comparisons end, because there's hardly any video games that actually use the 60s as a backdrop. It's a bit kind of shagadelic, like Austin Powers, I guess, but without being, over the top. And yeah, I mean, so far I've played about an hour or two of it, and so far it's interesting. So the combat's not really clicked with me yet, although it's okay. It's not bad. But the central mystery of the game is very good, and it does a roguelike approach to it with using the time loop. So everything that you have doesn't necessarily carry through unless you survive. So yeah, it's an intriguing one. It's got a really strong atmosphere. It's got a really excellent design that stands out. Like, I would say it stands out even more than Dunwall did in Dishonored. And yeah, it's really quite an intriguing thing. And the important thing, of course, is the DualSense, those haptics. Oh my God, it's the first time I've ever played a game with the proper haptics, and it is amazing. So, like, it rumbles in time with your footsteps, so a little kind of jolt on each step. It's got like force feedback and resistance on triggers, like on your guns.
Yeah.
And each one has, a different like a proper variance. And also, when it jams, the trigger won't move. It's really, really good. And
Nice.
such a small thing, but really immersive. So, yeah, with that and with the kind of intriguing mystery, it's got a solid thumbs up so far from me.
So, I know you're talking about the game, but I don't care about the game as it stands. You spoke because I want a DualSense. I do want a DualSense controller, but it was all the stories of not, games on the PC. They do the rumble, but they don't do the actual haptics. Well, where do things stand with using the DualSense on a PC? Is it just plug and play like a Xbox Series controller, or do you need like extra software like you used to have to add for the DualShock?
So it only works proper, I think, at all through Steam. So Steam, and specifically Steam Big Picture Mode, which loads up the joypad configurator that is built into Steam, and will be a big part of the Steam Deck when that comes out. And it automatically, any game that supports pad, it supports in the way that you said. So it all works just flawlessly, and regular rumble just works.
Yeah, as a generic
pad, but more specific, a little more specific than a generic pad, because some generic pads, they won't pick up the rumble.
Yeah.
So it picks it up with the same feature set as it has for an Xbox pad. To that level. So that's good. It will support all of the haptics, but they have to be programmed in. So at the moment, there's almost no games with it. I don't really understand why, unless it's complex to do. I suppose it might be, but they've got that driver, obviously, with it being a Sony exclusive, lol, that, they might as well make it compatible on Steam. But I'm guessing if it's easy enough and they've created a pack that they share, I don't know, in the gaming community, the development community, that we'll start seeing it on more games. I think it's only Metro Exodus, other than this, that supports it fully.
Oh, right.
I'm not interested in that game at all. But oh, wow, yeah, it's superb.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's the one thing, I'm not a big fan of like any of the real Sony exclusives. They're too big for me now. They last too long. I can't get into them. The controller is what I want. And I can't justify. Well, you can't get them anyway at the moment, but I can't justify £500 on a console just to try out a controller properly. So I'm hoping that we'd start seeing more games supporting it. Or hopefully, I don't know, maybe the next Microsoft Elite controller might have haptics, unless Sony have managed to, what's that thing called that you do with all the laws, not copyright.
Trademark?
No, what's that thing you do when you come up with a new invention and everyone sues each other for?
Oh, patent.
Patent it, yeah, there we go, that's the word. Whether they've patented it, I don't know, but if there are games that do support it and more come out, I might have to try it, because I can't, again, from a different point of view to you, I can't wait to see what an indie developer does with it, because they will do things you can't even think of now with it. Yeah. And so, whereas Sony get these ideas, I really love the idea of the little speaker in the DualShock 4, and worked really well with stuff like Resogun. I thought it was really, really good, and I thought they could introduce that in the NHL games, where you get coaches speaking through the speakers and the actual game sounds from elsewhere and stuff like that. And they never really ran with it. So I'm hoping with the haptic stuff, they really run with it and it does become the next big thing in game controls.
Yeah, it's interesting because it does bring so much to the table in such a small form factor comparatively. I've had experience with it from the controllers with the Oculus Rift. But the only way that they use them is to show where your fingers are, which is useful, but it's not really a game thing. And I think that's been because they couldn't really work out how you could integrate it. There was a very, very early game that was you cast spells as a wizard by describing them in the air with your hands.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that they just realised adding the haptics where your fingers are shown and you can be specific was probably too intricate. I don't know, but it was interesting, but it wasn't really capitalized on. But yeah, this really takes it and run with it. And there's the really basic thing of pads needing to have the underside buttons. I don't know what they call them, the ones that go where the grip is, and they're really handy.
Yeah.
And you can't help thinking that and haptics are going to become bog standard going forward. I would hope so.
Yes, you'd hope so, because Sony haven't. I feel bad saying about it, because they haven't innovated. I mean, even though they are the innovators of the controller with the original PlayStation DualShock, where they brought analog sticks, they've not really innovated as much as I would have hoped beyond that. The 6-axis was an idea, and they kind of went, no, we'll bring the rumble back instead. And others kind of done it better in the end. I think they even done it better in the Vita, because I really like the gyro aiming in that. And Nintendo have done really good gyro aiming. Microsoft brought out the rumble in the triggers and had the better triggers for that. But haptics does feel like a game changer. When it drops in price, I might give Deathloop a try with a normal controller and see if I can get Lucas to find out if any of these mates have a PlayStation 5 and might be willing to lend him a DualSense to practice with. Yeah. But yeah, I can't wait to see what it's actually like. And it's good to know there are PC games that allow you to do that.
Yes, and there will be more. When it comes to the control, the thing with the using things to their fullest and stuff like that, especially with using gyro aim. Now, what I never liked that, and I never caught on with it at all. I just found it too fiddly, and I really didn't like it. And I found, especially with the way that pads are laid out, are just so that it works with your hands, whereas something like the Wii U remote was specifically so that you could point it at a TV. And I think that having something that controlled like that was fine, but it didn't work for me in a pad. And it also depends on your dexterity. And the reason why I think that the haptics thing is much more likely to become a standard feature is because it doesn't require any extra skill or effort. It's just better feedback.
Yeah,
it's just a way of providing more sensation to the player. And I think that's definitely going to be one of the deciding factors. Although, long-time listeners will remember I made a point months ago that I don't think this stuff should be in the standard controller at the expense of the quality. I said there should be a bog standard one that's like a DualShock 2 that is completely reliable. You could smash against your kid's head all day and it would be working still by the end of the day. And they charged you 3 times as much. So like for a DualSense, charged you £100 for one that it did all the things that a DualSense does, but it doesn't have stick drift and it doesn't have a fragility to it, and it'll last you a lifetime. And I think that's really how they should do it.
Yeah. I totally agree. I'm up for sort of like different tier quality. You can risk paying less money for something that could be susceptible. It is made with cheaper parts, but it is more accessible for prices to high quality based things. See, what I really want to see in the DualSense and the haptic feedback again is from the accessibility point of view. That if I'm playing a game where I'm like, it's a 3D game and I've got to wander in places and I can't see exactly where I'm going due to vision issues, that I can feel that if I'm brushing past a tree or something, you can feel that in the haptics.
Yeah.
Or you feel almost like if you're going downhill, you almost get a feeling that you're going downhill in the haptics and stuff like that. All little things like that I think will be, again, really good for accessibility, and that's what I'm hoping to see most from these. And that's where, again, when I talk about what the indie developers can do with it, is that's where I hope they take the lead, is going, right, what can we actually do to help disabled gamers get more from the game?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a really good way of doing it. Anything with that kind of sensory feedback, superb idea. Yeah, really futuristic.
Yeah. So I've been playing one other game this last week or so, and do you remember when I spoke about Indoor Lands and I said, what's in your sim management games and that, we've done all the outdoors, where's next? And we went, oh, it's indoors.
Yep.
So, city builders. We've done all the big city builders, done all over Earth. We've been into space, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Where do you think we can go next?
Planet Core?
No, we go smaller.
In the microverse, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Which is what the idea is behind the game Tinytopia. Lovely little game, this. Again, one I played, not expecting much from, went into it not knowing much about. But essentially what you get is, I don't want to say a simplistic city builder, but it is at the same time. You've got a really simplistic economy within the game, but it's got all the stuff that you'd expect from a city builder. So, having to manage population, taxis, disasters, that kind of, all the things you'd expect from like a Sim City, a City Skylines, Transport Fever, that kind of thing. Except it's done on a really small scale. It's like you're playing with a toy set. And to give you an idea, you've got some levels that take place on like a moving record player, others that take place on like a bike pedal, they're all taking place in what looks like this child's bedroom. When you zoom out, it's got that aesthetic, and everything looks toy-like. But it's got everything in there, so connecting roads and putting in buildings, and it's just really nice to play. And you've got this 20 odd levels that you go through. So it's level based, but there's 20 odd levels. You've either got this complete sandbox style levels, or you've got these like physics challenges. So there's this one section, for example, where you've got to build a city on a balancing ruler. So if you start putting too many buildings on one side of a ruler, it starts to tip. So you have to put others on the other side to keep it balanced. And on the record player one, you've got to kind of place buildings on this record player so that they don't all fly off and there's enough support in different places. And that's on like the little challenge levels. But on the main levels, it's still like your very basic city builder, but it looks really, really cute. Like there's one, do you know on SimCity where Godzilla attacks sometimes?
Yeah.
So you've got Godzilla, but he's this little wind-up toy, Godzilla.
Oh, nice.
And it just wanders through your village. Again, it's not doing anything new or special, but it's just lovely, and it's so small as well. And I really love it. And it's got this like the mechanic of leveling up buildings is really good. Now I was trying to think. There's a game that was a series of games that came out, and I really can't remember what they was called. I want to say Toby Fox made them, but I might be completely wrong on the name. But where you'd get, you have to place a tree, and then you place another tree, and then they turn into a hut. You build tree, hut, tree, hut, and then you merge the huts, and they turn into a house. You merge the houses, they turn into a school or whatever, stuff like that. I can't remember what that game was. I used to play it on iOS many years ago. But you kind of got this, so I suppose it's almost like this 2048 or threes style mechanic where you put a building down, like a level 1 house, and to turn that into a level 2 house, you have to put another level 1 house next to it, and that creates a level 2 house. And then if you want to build it to a level 3, you need to get another level 2. But you have to do 2 level 1s to make a level 2 to create a level 3, and so on. And that adds a really interesting mechanic to it, because it feels almost puzzle-like in that sense. And it's not complicated. You don't look at it and go, oh, that seems awkward. How am I going to do it? It takes out a lot of the rules of city builders. You haven't got to worry about where your buildings are facing. So they haven't got to be facing the road or facing in certain directions. You just kind of plop them down and it works. Again, you have to think about, like, there's buildings that create jobs, so you've got to make sure you've got enough residents, but you've got to make sure you've got enough jobs if you've got too many residents, and that kind of thing. It's all the trappings are there at a slightly simplified level to make it accessible and just enjoyable to play. Again, I've not got all the way through, but every time I've played this game, I've lost a good few hours to it because it's just so satisfying to play. It's got a really nice soundtrack. Like, you plop stuff down and it feels clicky. It almost feels like you're playing with toys.
Yeah.
And it just works so well. It's just, honestly, it's just a basic city builder that's thrown a concept into it, but rather than just being a skin of the concept, they've lent into it really well. And just a nice, enjoyable game. Not the best city builder I've ever played, nowhere near the worst. It's just a fun distraction game.
That sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, I love it when they play with scale and dimensions really, really well. And I think some of the best ones are like obviously Katamari Damacy. Oh, that's really, really cool. It's very, very difficult to iterate on that without losing the purity of the original idea. Absolutely magnificent game, though. So much fun.
Yes.
And what was the other one I was thinking of that uses? Oh, Pikmin. Yeah, Pikmin uses scale. I
Yeah.
mean, technically, it's just an aesthetic thing, but I don't know. Something about the fact that you're a micronaut is really engaging. I love that kind of stuff. It doesn't crop up enough.
The only thing it made me think about with it is, that, especially the idea of building on things that you know are real size and stuff like that, was there's not enough Land of the Giants games. Let's make a Land of the Giants game, shall we?
Right. In what kind of way?
Just, I want to see, like, the idea of doing like something like Tinytopia, which is brilliant, but a more enhanced city builder, but you've got to build it in a world where people of like our size exist, or a borrower's game or something like that plays with that scale more. I just that aesthetic just really resonates with me.
So like that you would be the smaller size and you would have to
tiny.
cope with the bigger people. Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yes.
In fact, you should just like copyright that right away, because that's a good idea.
I don't know if I've ruined the 1960s TV series Land of the Giants for anyone at all, but
I don't think so.
Because it was quite obvious that that they was just in a normal world.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I think you've probably surprised me.
Someone's going, I've been saving that one. My granddad recorded all those onto Betamax for me. Oh no!
Oh, just chuck them in the skip
Brad,
now.
you've ruined Land of the Giants. Yeah.
God damn you.
Now you're going to tell me the plot of Geordie Racer, aren't you? Oh.
God damn you.
Boys from the Black Stuff. Does he get the job? I don't know.
Oh my God, that would be a spoiler and a half. Anyway.
But that's all from games from me.
Yes, that's everything from me. I mean, I dabbled in a couple, and what I really want to pick up Mini Metro again this week and talk about it next week. I really want to try and make some progress because, like I say, I'm just a complete dumbass who has no idea what to do, and even like going through it several times and iterating, it still doesn't make me any better at the game. So I'm gonna have to put some serious time and thought into it and see if I can get better.
Yeah, so I'll join in with you. See, my biggest issue with Mini Metro is you can't create a circle line, and that really bugs me. That's the one thing they need to add. That you can create a proper circle line.
Yeah.
It's end to end.
Yes, yeah. We'll talk about that next week because that's definitely something I picked up on. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about that.
That's going to be the weirdest of rants from someone on a game that's 7, 8 years old that probably most people don't care about anymore. So you tune into this show for the up-to-date news on disappointments with modern games.
Screw the listeners. What do they know?
I know. You played Deathloop.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's
we're modern.
Yeah. That's about as recent as you can get, isn't it? I think it's the most recent big release.
Came out yesterday. I bought it on the day of release.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So at least people listening back will know when, or be able to look up when this podcast was recorded.
And also with me saying that, if I've got the date wrong, I can't be proven wrong. So, that's perfect.
That's a very good point. So I'm dragging this on because I've got nothing I really want to talk about at the moment in terms of mental health side of stuff. I'm kind of to let everyone know this. We usually record on a Thursday. We kind of hit a routine of recording on a Thursday, but I completely forgot. Made an appointment for Thursday, so we've had to rush this one into the Wednesday at a day's notice. But this time, fingers crossed, I've got my op, which should be done by the next time we record. That's on the Monday. My birthday, my 40th birthday, is on the 18th, which is the Saturday. So I'll be older and wiser, or older by the next time we record. I might be blinder, who knows? But yeah, that's all coming up. So yeah, it's a weird weekend of emotion for me. I think was it last week I spoke about that I'm actually looking forward to making it to 40 for once after believing that I just never would make it when I was younger.
It may have even been the week before, but I remember you talking about it, yeah.
See, I couldn't remember if I spoke about it on here or whether it was just something I was going to speak about and it was still in my mind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you did talk about it on here, yeah.
I've planned, and I'm going to say this as well because then someone will remind me and go, where is it? But I'm planning on doing a not going to bother Stu with it until it's finished, but I'm just a straight speaking to the mic bit about my history of ADHD, where I'm just going to go and go and go and go, and Stu can edit whatever he needs to do for me. And that'll be either a one-off special or, depending how long I talk for, might do it as a series. So still probably break that into about 500 different episodes, because apparently I can go on a bit. Didn't know that. But yeah, it's an ADHD look into my brain special that's coming up. And Stu said, we've got our 100th episode coming up. If you've got any ideas, let us know via the Twitters or whatever. But we're going to start planning for that. So far, the Sega special is the one that seems to be there at the moment, because we wanted to do that before. So it'll probably be a Sega special.
Definitely.
There we go. Stu, you spoke. Thank you. I was going there going, please speak. I'm going. I need someone to stop me. So I'm going to be quiet now.
Yeah, no, I think the Sega thing should definitely be a part of it, because then it gives me an excuse to play a load of Sega games and watch a load of YouTube videos without having any kind of, I should be playing something else. So that's good. And also,
so if Mel goes, what are you doing? You can go research, innit?
Yeah, exactly. And I'd also like to do some sort of a top 10. I've got a couple of ideas in mind that I won't spoil. So definitely that. But I think we'll make it like a bumper double length episode type situation. And see where we go with it. So yes, a lot going on with you. And obviously, I'm sure I speak for the entire listenership when I say that I hope it all goes really well. And we'll be following along to make sure that, everything is fine. And
And can they sew his mouth shut at the same time? Just, as a favour to the wider world.
Yeah. Do a what's it called? Deadpool from
yes,
the crappy Deadpool one, the Wolverine Origins thing. If they can give you like massive blades at the same time, that would be quite cool. Keep the kids in line.
The can't kill me thing. Can't actually die.
Yeah,
no matter what.
Yeah.
Or just give me some of Ryan Reynolds' money. That'll do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ryan Reynolds, if you're listening, you can support me on Ko-Fi. He might do. You never know. I mean, he bought Wrexham.
Yeah, I know.
He bought Wrexham, so God. He might listen.
Insane. Madman.
If anyone supports Wrexham and you can get hold of Ryan Reynolds, just send him the Ko-Fi link.
We were driving back from North Wales home and going via Wrexham, by the side of Wrexham, and there was a huge Wrexham sign like printed on the hills, and I was like, why the hell have they done that? And my wife just went, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, see, right, did you hear about the actual story about that?
About the football club, yeah.
Yeah, everyone assumed that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney had put that sign up as a big stunt. Turned out it was nothing to do with them. It was nothing to do with the club. It was the Conference League sponsors done it as a stunt instead. But yeah, everyone just assumed Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney had got a bit too big for their boots and wanted to show off their star power.
Yeah, that's what we assumed. But anyway.
Yeah, no, it was nothing to do with them. There you go. I defended your honour. Okay, so now Ryan Reynolds, you definitely have to do. We'll sponsor. You can sponsor the show, Ryan Reynolds. Okay, you can sponsor the show. We'll wear Wrexham tops. We'll support Wrexham. Just putting it out there.
No, I'm from Chester. I can't wear a Wrexham top. I'd get murdered. So
I'll wear a Wrexham top. I don't care. I'll sell out with enough money, Ryan Reynolds.
Basically give up anything for the money. But yeah.
I'll give up anything for the money. You can have my kids, Ryan Reynolds. You can have both of them.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see if we can get that dirty cash. But whilst we wait for that dirty cash to roll in, I hope that all of you at home, or wherever you're listening, are having a good week, and that you stay safe and stay sane.